In this video, I'm going to be telling you the single biggest reason your life is not moving forward. And the reason I know this is because it's been the one thing that's been holding me back for the last 11 years. Once I was able to basically get over this obstacle, everything else in my life was beginning to move and shape in the way in which I'd planned for many years ago. A few years back, I used to be a club promoter when I started my drinking and basically it got out of control. But one of the roles that I did in my early 20s is basically I was a club promoter. My role was basically to bring in two types of clients into the club: beautiful women and table spenders. And when I was a club promoter, I remember I was always utilizing Snapchat. What I'd figured out is that social proof worked amazingly when it came to getting women out. When I first started being a club promoter, I would get women's numbers and I would send them a text saying, "Hey, do you want to come to the club? I've got this to offer you." They would never reply. But if I added them on Snapchat and they watched my story and I didn't invite them to nothing, I just let them marinate in my Snapchat friends, they would view my story and eventually they would get to a point where they see, right, this guy has something going on. That's the idea of social proof. Now, it wasn't only the women that would see what sort of events I was throwing. It was also the men, the friends, and the people I had around me in university that would see what I was doing on a particular night out. And when you're a club promoter, everybody wants to be close proximity to you because you're the go-to guy. You're the person who's got access to limited drinks. You've got a table, you've got the women there, you've got the spenders, everybody's dressed nice, celebrities are frequenting the venues. You know, people want to be associated with you because they've got this halo effect that they put on you. So I understood about that, even though it was something that I didn't understand consciously. I sort of understood that people are treating me different because of the role that I'm playing in these clubs. And a lot of the guys that I would meet, they would befriend me basically because they knew I'm a club promoter and they wanted to come out and they always wanted a way to meet women, right? So, and they couldn't get into these clubs by themselves. They didn't know anyone. They didn't know how it works. They wanted to have a good time. So a lot of the times I would invite these guys, and prior to me inviting them out on a night out, this wasn't my friends. This was like people who were coming out as clients. They would always tell me this great story about how they're this smooth Casanova. When they get in the club, they're going to be partying, having a great time. And, you know, they would really give off the impression that if I just bring them into the club, I'm going to see this party animal, this guy who knows how to be extroverted, network with people, and very much social. But that was never, ever the result. When these guys would come out, what would usually happen is they get into the club and basically they would socialize with absolutely no one. You would think that this was the dream scenario for most men, right? You go into a club, the women are friendly, the drinks are flowing, everybody's having a great time. This is the moment for you to get out of your shell, network with people, bring out that extrovert version of yourself. But a lot of the times when the guys would come in, similar to myself, I wasn't no different for this. I would come in and you'd be very much stuck in your head for the first, 1 to 2 hours before the liquor kicked in. And that brings me back to the first point that I was making about the single biggest thing that's stopping you from moving your life forward. It's this idea and this story and this narrative that we tell ourselves is that we are not ready for whatever it is we need to be ready for. When I used to make music, one of the things that you have to do is you have to go to the studio and you have to record a song. When you record a song, there's many different layers. You got to add the ad-libs, the main vocals. And whenever I would make a song, I remember the engineers would always say this about me, but I was a huge perfectionist. I always wanted that scenario that I was working hard towards to come out exactly how I wanted it to be. You watch documentaries like people like Michael Jackson, his film came out. They speak about these great people who achieved humongous success. They were basically perfectionists. But the difference with them is that they always was able to actually utilize the situation that was right in front of them. Whilst for me, I would always tell myself I'm not ready and I wouldn't release the song. This is similar to the guys that were in the club. When the opportunity to speak to those women was there, they probably thought I'm not ready. I need a little bit more drink. They kept drinking more and more and more and more. Eventually they're sloppy drunk, just like me. And by the time they start speaking to the women, they're so drunk that the conversation is going nowhere. The single biggest thing that we tell ourselves is that we are not ready, and we make every excuse and we rationalize why we are not ready to take on the opportunity that's right in front of us. This is our problem. This is the biggest thing that's holding you back in your life. You probably have a business that you need to start. You know exactly what to do. You've been on the internet for multiple months, years even, possibly like me. I was 6 to 7, 8 years before I started taking some of the content on board that I was listening to. You know exactly what to do, what that road looks like, but you're not doing it. Why? You're telling yourself you're not ready. I need to get this in order, that in order, this in order. And the thing is, we always believe there's this perfect scenario where all our eggs will be in a row. We're going to have everything put together and we're going to be perfectly ready for this opportunity. The other day, one of my friends was looking at my Instagram and she saw the very first video that I released on the Instagram. And I think I edited it in a way where it was moving a bit too much. And you could see it's a sloppy edit. You could tell this guy is an amateur. He's new to editing. And the first thing she said is, you know what? I really respect you for uploading it anyway, because somebody like me, I would have had to make it perfect before I put it out there. And I said, that's why I'm putting out content and you're not. Because you have this, I am going to be ready when mentality. See, if you have that mentality, what I realize is that mentality never ends. It's a cycle. It keeps you in the loop. If I keep that mentality when I'm making content, that what's going to happen is I'm never going to release content. If I have that mentality when I make money, I'm never going to be happy because I'm always looking for the next goal. A lot of the times in this world, we have to be able to understand that, look, this is how we're going to look for a long time, an amateur. But you know what? We have to learn to enjoy the journey. You're not ready is the biggest excuse people make. If you actually really get down to the nitty gritty of why they're not doing what they need to do, I promise you, you will come to the same conclusion. So how do you get rid of this mentality? How did I get rid of it? What I realized is I looked around and I also realized that I'm not the only one that's coming up with this excuse. People will say different ways. People will say it in different ways. People will give you different excuses, but it all comes down to the same thing. Something is stopping me from starting today, blah, 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 blah. I'm not ready. And when I got down to the bottom of that, what I realized is the route that I'm trying to go down, if I have this excuse of how I'm not ready, I need the perfect camera equipment, I need the perfect lighting, I need this just to start recording, then there must be more people like me who feel the same. And if that's the case, that means if there's more people who feel like me, there's probably a lot more who haven't actually started because of that fear. That means there's less competition in the field that I actually want to go down. See, a lot of the times you'll find when you want to start a business, people talk about the market being saturated. And to an extent, yes, it is. But I believe truly any sort of business that you can wove your personality into, your unique outlook, your experience, you're always going to stand out, even in a market that's saturated. Because you don't need 100% of the market. You just need to tap into the people that relate to you. That's particularly true with content creation. Right? But also you can see it in commodity-based businesses. Like if you are able to make some sort of protein shake, but you target a particular sort of person, ethnic group, height, maybe even weight class, and you just focus on them, you're more likely to dominate that. That's called a niche, right? You don't need to be ready. What you need to do is you need to start. The more your life goes on and you tell yourself this narrative of one day all the things that you have in mind is going to be put together, the longer you're delaying your success. Start taking action from today. And I'm going to leave that there because that's the message I wish somebody had told me when I was 18 years old. You don't need to be perfect, Tino.